Shalom all. Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, KosherTorah.com. Back together with you for a little chat about some topics of interest and Kabbalah, mysticism, and down-to-earth real practical stuff. So tonight is the 3rd of July, 2018. We are right now on the eve of the celebration of American independence from 1776 now to 2018. Okay, we're not going to get into politics per se, but in the topic I want to share and discuss tonight, we're going to talk about Messianic prophecies. All right, when is Mashiach coming? Who is coming? How is he? Question mark, and that's a good one too. How is he supposed to come? And everything else. We look around the world today, we see everything that's happening, and so many people from religious points of view, Jewish, Christian alike, even the Islamic communities, are all convinced Mashiach, Messiah, is on the doorstep. He is here right now. I've heard from so many people who claim, yes, they know who Mashiach is, where Mashiach is. Some people believe Mashiach is going to come out of the sky on a white horse. Some believe he's going to rise from a grave in some eastern United States city. Some people have all kinds of different beliefs. Well, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, and I'm certainly not able to predict to you the future. But I am going to tell you pretty much what has been said over the many, many years, and explain what I can, and allow you to make your own decisions about what you want to believe and not. Now, I have discussed and taught the topic of Messianic prophecies for many, many, many years. You can go on to my website, KosherTorah.com, and you will find in my free audio library a dozen or more lessons, 2 dozen, probably even more than that. The entire books of Daniel, Zechariah, numerous lessons in Isaiah, Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, all in my free audio library dealing with biblical Messianic prophecies. I even address certain topics from the Essenes about the 3 concepts of Mashiach. You know, we have Mashiach ben David, there's Mashiach ben Yosef. Most people don't know that there used to be a Mashiach ben Aharon. Many people say, never heard of a Mashiach coming from Aharon before. It's not included in Rabbinic Judaism, or so they say, because they don't know what the Talmud speaks of when they speak about the coming of the Kohen Tzadok, the righteous priest. No, not Eliyahu Hanavi, somebody else yet. So you have all different ideas, all different concepts, all different beliefs. In courses that are available through our online store, I have many, many lessons in the Talmudic teachings of Messianic prophecies, and I did a very involved course in post-Talmudic Messianic teachings, including from the Zohar and the Midrashim and the like. So, with all of this readily available for you already, needless to say, in the short time we have in a public lesson like this, I'm not going to be repetitive. But what I am going to do is kind of sum up points to you that I really, really believe need to be addressed when it comes to understanding the topic. So, to begin with, we say Mashiach is coming. What exactly does that mean? Where is the concept of Mashiach come from? And again, you can point to me what is written in the Tanakh, in the Bible, and you can quote to me Isaiah, and you can quote to me Zechariah, and I can nod my head, and I said, yeah, I've read these same things myself. And then I'm going to sit there and stroke my proverbial beard, not so proverbial, and go, What did Isaiah, what did Zechariah, what does Ezekiel actually mean when they wrote what they did? Because here's a big, important point that most people always forget when they come to understanding, or I should say reading, the prophets. You think you could read the words of the biblical prophets, the prophecies I should say specifically, and take them what? Literally? Really? Where on earth did you ever get such a bizarre idea? In the Torah itself, it says when God speaks to a prophet, it speaks to him in visions of the night, in dreams and the like. You know what a dream is? We have many examples of biblical dreams. The dreams of Joseph that he shared with his brothers. The dreams of Pharaoh, which were interpreted by Joseph. The dreams of King Nebuchadnezzar, interpreted by Daniel. A foundation biblical rule, very well established and validated by modern psychology, is that all dream symbols are highly symbolic, never ever meant to be taken literally. Do you remember the story, Joseph, when he had his famous dreams? He saw the sun and the moon and the stars bowing down to him. Really? Was that an astronomical event? No, it was symbolic. When Pharaoh had his dreams about the years of plenty and famine, what did he see? He saw stalks of grain. He saw cows. Did his dream have anything to do with real cows? No. Right? Daniel. King Nebuchadnezzar had his big dream, if you remember, and it disturbed him so deeply because he couldn't remember it. But Daniel was able to not only tell him what his dream was, but to interpret it. Like the wise men in Egypt in the days of Joseph. You don't think that Nebuchadnezzar's Hachamim, his sages, also tried to do the same thing with Nebuchadnezzar? But of course. But somehow deep within his mind, his psyche, his soul, Nebuchadnezzar could intuit that what these guys were saying, didn't get it just right. And it frustrated him to such a point. Go read what the book of Daniel says about this. Understand now from this, like we learn in modern psychology, especially in the school of Jungian psychology, in which we recognize what we call archetypes, that the language of spirituality, the language of the unconscious, is one of symbol and image, pictures. This is why when we, that means you and I, have dreams at night, we see all kinds of weird, bizarre stuff. And you're going to take it literally, you'll never understand anything about yourself or the reality of the world around you. All symbols need to be interpreted. Whenever a prophet has a vision, the vision is meant to be interpreted. Go read in the book of Zechariah. That's exactly what happens. He is shown images by a malach, a messenger. And they ask him, do you understand this? And they go, And they say, well, this is what it means. The language of the unconscious is one of image, picture, and symbol. I'm repeating it over and over again. Why? Because when you read the big prophecies, for example, here's a good one, of Gog and Magog in the book of Ezekiel, where Ezekiel speaks of the great earthquake to come, the great wars to come. And it speaks of the great nations of Gog and Magog and the mighty wars. Really? So many people today make so much effort to try to identify today who is Gog and Magog. Do you really think it matters? Do you not recognize that Gog and Magog is a symbolic metaphor that was used by the prophet in his day? And that it's a symbol, it is a metaphor, it is an archetype. And the war of which he speaks, is that a physical war? A literal war? Some today are so absolutely convinced it is World War III. It'll be the great war between the East and the West. That's how we interpret it today. Between the Christian nations of the West and the Islamic nations of the East. We're absolutely convinced. Oh, really? Are we now? Why? How? You obviously know nowhere in the Bible is there any reference to Christians or to Muslims. And you can say, well, that means like this and it means like that. Well, you're opinion, I guess, is as good as anybody else's. Well, this rabbi said so, or this teacher said so. Good for them. What makes you think anyone today is a final authority? Let me remind you a foundational teaching of that which we call rabbinic Judaism. Number one, we have no prophets today. No one but no one today says, "Thus saith the Lord," and speaks in the name of God. And you could say, well, rabbis today have the Holy Spirit, or HaKodesh, and they have divine inspiration, and you could argue yes and no, no and yes, whatever. Doesn't matter. That's not prophecy. Well, I believe whatever you want. Who cares? I follow my Rebbe. Good for you. Follow your Rebbe. And all those who don't follow your Rebbe, they're wrong, or yes, they are. Well, they say no, they're not, and they say you're wrong. Do you want me to go down the list of all the different schools in Judaism today, where in which one group is so absolutely convinced that their way is right and everyone else is wrong? I don't list names here. It's my policy here at our KosherTorah school. I will never, ever publicly critique any group or individual by name. No, I'm not too embarrassing or challenging people like that. That's beneath us. We don't act like that, at least not here. So then, whose opinions is the right ones? Well, the Talmud says this, or the Zohar says that. But let me remind you something about the Zohar and the Talmud. Neither one of these great works of literature is prophecy. All they are, and all they will ever be, is the collected opinions of their authors. Now that's it, no more. Now, don't you think, God forbid, that I'm belittling our sacred Talmud or our sacred Zohar. God forbid, shame on you even for thinking such. I recognize the value of these sacred texts for what they are, and recognize as a scholar what they are not. We accept and embrace their teachings. But the thing that we learn, especially with the Zohar, and all the more so with the Talmud, is things are not meant to be taken so black and white literal. For those of you who've never studied Talmud, you're really missing out on profound literature. Because the Talmud is a compilation of a brilliant combination of rational, intellectual thought, side by side with intuitive, psychic intuition. For those of you who've ever studied Talmud, you know we have halacha, or pilpul, or pshat, and then immediately the text will shift into what we call agadata. And some people today, in their opinion, believe that the agadata, the stories of the Talmud, are not stimulating enough intellectually to waste their time in learning. So they skip over them. I say, shame on you. You're completely half-brained, cutting out half the sacred Talmud when you do that. The editors of the Talmud intentionally put together a Talmudic page so you would flow from left brain to right brain, from rational intellect to intuitive psychic awareness, back and forth and forth and back, putting into practice something what is referred to in the Sefer Yetzirah, where it says, understand with wisdom and be wise with understanding. I call it Sechel Tenudah, or oscillating consciousness. We're very much part of the meditative process. You contemplate an idea, a thought, or whatever, intellectually, rationally, in a process in Hebrew we call hitbonenut, which is intellectual awareness, intellectual analysis. And then you go into it deeper and deeper until your mind just literally goes off into some other place. We would call it maybe daydreaming, where in which you've gone from the concrete to the abstract. And that abstract contemplation we call hitbodedut, mental isolation. Hitbonenut is what we call bina. Hitbodedut is what we call chokhmah, understanding, wisdom, right brain, left brain, etc. Whenever you want to study Talmud, or for that matter, Zohar, or for that matter, Tanakh, you must put this process of mental application to work. So when it comes to reading the prophecies of Ezekiel and Gog and Magog, and you're trying to understand what it says, granted, you could read the commentaries, and there are numerous commentaries. For some things, it could be literally in the hundreds. And you will find maybe a consensus of opinions, in which majority believe that this or that means this or that. And they may be right, or they may be wrong. As a scholar, my job is only to provide for you the information of what the scholars say. I most certainly have no authority to say to you, well, this is the right opinion or that is the wrong opinion. I may share with you, based upon my own analysis and conclusions, the opinions that I believe may or may not be correct. But you'll never ever hear me say the ridiculous, foolish words, thus saith the Lord, this is the truth. No one can say that. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they are. It doesn't matter if we were talking about the great sages of the Talmud, or the great sages of the Kabbalah, or the holy sages of our modern day. No one has the capital T, truth, not the capital T. All we have are what we call teot. And the foundational teaching of our Torah is Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim hayim. These and these are the opinions of the living God. In my opinion, this is the greatness of that which we today call rabbinic Judaism. Emphasis on that word rabbi. All we have today are the opinions of sacred, holy human beings. Male, and I'm going to throw in there female, just to stir up the pot a little bit. I'm not going to argue back and forth whether or not we can or cannot have female rabbis. You know why? Because I already know a good number of women today who are as learned as any man, or as wise as any man. And if they were to put their thoughts into writing and Talmudic commentaries, halachic responses, Kabbalistic commentary, and instead of putting their name down as a woman, just left it off, you would never know. And you would be reading some of the most profound and deep, holy understandings of everything in our Torah traditions. So I'm not going to get into the political quagmire of whether or not you can, have a female rabbi, because you go into all questions about, communal leadership and leading of prayers and reading of the Torah. I'm not going to argue about those things, right? Opinions, deot. But when it comes to learning and scholarship, ladies, I want to encourage you out there, learn, grow, and share what you have to offer. So I'll share with you a midrash. A midrash. Remember one of those rabbinic teachings, interpretations, and the like? Well, our sages said that on the merit of the women, we were redeemed from Egypt, and it will be on the merit of the women that Mashiach will come. So, Gog and Magog, great and holy war in Ezekiel. Literal war, physical war, or a psychological battle within each and every human soul. Think about that. Ladies, you have a deep, intuitive sense of feeling, of knowing. You darn well know what I'm saying. No man, no matter how brilliant he is going to get. I encourage women to study. And not only to study, but to express your studies and teach them. And don't worry about all the political nonsense and the garbage out there. Women have such a beautiful and profound intuitive insight that we guys just don't. Women, you do not have to follow the rational analytical path of scholarship of men. You know there's a different way that women think, right? I'm an outsider. I can't be a woman to offer female insights. But I can respect them and appreciate them and encourage them. And here at our KosherTorah school, absolutely. I teach women. You want to study the depths of Kabbalah? You want to study the depths of Talmud? By all means. By all means, absolutely. Every single door is open for you. And I darn well know from my many, many years of experience, we've been around for almost a quarter century now. Okay? Many of my female students have impressed me with their profundity of insight into something which for others would seem unfathomable, or others would think simple. So I encourage that. You want to read biblical prophecies. You want to study Talmudic insights into the coming of Mashiach. And you want to interpret these things literally. You want to read the Zohar. The Zohar says some very frightening things. Did you know that the Zohar states that before Mashiach comes, Paras, that's Iran, is meant to conquer the land of Israel and kill almost everybody in the land? Yes, that is what the Zohar says. Parshat Shemot, for those of you who want to go look it up. You better hope and pray that's not a literal prophecy. The Zohar is a midrash, a collection of symbolic teachings. And everybody knows when it comes to studying and understanding Zohar, as it says, a new Perush, commentary of the Zohar, is written in heaven every single day. If you ever studied Zohar, you'll recognize that it's a highly symbolic text. And anybody who comes to study the Zohar literally, you just don't understand. You probably never will. There are those people who have come to the study of Zohar, interpreting things literally, and will walk away thinking the book is heretical. And indeed, if you look at the Zohar literally, you probably would draw those conclusions. You don't come to poetry and interpret it as prose. You don't come to symbolism and interpret it literal. So when you want to understand the coming of Mashiach, you better stop being so rigid and black and white and thinking you understand because that's what the text says. Yeah, maybe that is what the text says. But what does it really mean? Well, this rabbi says this rabbi says that. Good for them. And who's to say that their opinions are the truth with capital T's? We have great sages, brilliant, profound minds, souls, spirits. We all know who they are. Go down the list. Rashi, Ramban, even Rambam. Right? We have all these great holy sages. And they say great and profound many things. But what do they really mean? When you're a scholar of Judaism, you know very well that there's commentary after commentary and opinion after opinion. And in most cases, never the twain, the two opinions, ever agree. That's why we said elu ve'elu. So fine. Scholarship is to recognize this. And it's my dramatic pause here before I draw my conclusions. What are you left with? You're left with not having a definitive answer, black and white. This is what it means. Don't ask me. You see, this is one of the big differences between the Christian mentality and the Jewish. Christianity is always built upon the premise of correct doctrine, correct belief. Judaism, not so much. Even when we discuss the coming of Mashiach, all right? You can read in Rambam, Maimonides, in his code, the Mishneh Torah. He says very clearly the concept of the coming of Mashiach. Yeah, we know Mashiach is coming, right? It's one of the 13 principles. I believe in the perfect faith, the coming of Mashiach. And even though he may tarry, I wait daily for his coming. And I do. But what does, in quote, his coming mean? Well, like Christianity, we all believe Mashiach is coming on a white horse out of the sky, singing, "Here I come to save the day," like Mighty Mouse, right? Oh, really? And where did you learn that? No. Certainly I wait for Mashiach to come. And you want to know? You want some insights? I'll give you some insights now. When is Mashiach coming? Somebody asked me that in a question today in text on Facebook. And I answered them with a very profound story that is written in the Gemara. And I'll share with you that story right now. One of the great sages met Eliyahu Hanavi. And he asked the famous prophet, when is Mashiach coming? We've been waiting a long time now. And he said, why ask me? Go ask Mashiach. All right, I will. Where is he? Oh, he's sitting by the gates of Rome. Oh, he is he? Remember, this is all symbolic talk. He finds Mashiach there. And he says to Mashiach, all right, hello, how are you? What's going on? Blah, blah. When are you coming? And Mashiach says, today. Oh, today. Okay, good. I'm waiting. He goes back to Eliyahu Hanavi, and Eliyahu asks him, so what did Mashiach say to you? He says he's coming today. And Eliyahu smiles and says, hayom, im bekolo tishma'u. Only if you hear his voice. You see, the coming of Mashiach is a psychological event in the evolution of human consciousness. And it must be this before it will ever materialize and manifest into a political, social reality on earth. Many people are awaiting for an extraterrestrial, oh, I love that word, you know that, intervention. God is going to intervene from heaven. Why? Because we human beings, we're so disgusting and filthy and dirty and wrong. Everybody's so bad, right? Of course. Look at all those other groups that don't agree with my group. They're disgusting and evil and bad and rotten, and God's going to get them all. Oh, really? Isn't that what many Christians believe about Jews? Isn't that what many Muslims believe about the rest of the world? And you don't think you have individual Jewish groups who believe that about everybody else too? Yeah, God's going to get you because I can't. So God's going to get you. I'm sorry for laughing. But that type of desperation is a psychological expression of frustration, which certainly has nothing to do with spirituality, not even with religion. God's not going to get you, right? No thunder or bolts are falling down from heaven to smite the evil enemy, or any of this other kind of silly stuff. You see what's going on in the Middle East every single day, decade after decade. From the days that I was living there in the 1980s until today, I have heard from all generations, from rabbis and others, yep, Mashiach's coming, this and that's a sign. What's happening with Syria and Iraq and Iran and Russia and Turkey, everything's a sign. Every now and then I get calls from Israel to come on, like Israeli radio, to talk about Messianic prophecies. I always turn them down. I'm saying because nothing that's happening today is authentically a Messianic prophecy. It's about whatever you want to believe. You're so absolutely convinced World War III has to come. Things are so bad. Look at the political divide here in the United States today. We have to smite the evil ones. Oh, really? Yeah, look at what's happening in Europe today, right? They have it coming, and the war is coming, and evil is coming, and oh, really? Why do you embrace such negative thought? Didn't the Baal Shem Tov wisely teach us, Eifu Adam Choshev Sham Hu, where you think is where you're at? And if you embrace negative thought, then that's your mental outlook. That's horrible. I would never want to live in a world like that. You really believe in a zombie apocalypse? Really? That's what you want to look out for? No, I refuse to live in a world like that. Am I blinding my eyes? No, not me. Anybody who knows me, I'm a good old Boy Scout. I prepare for everything. But that doesn't mean that I live in fear. I refuse to do that. No, I'm very optimistic. I'm positive. I don't believe in an apocalypse politically, militarily to come. On the contrary, I believe the apocalypse, that's, doom and gloom, already happening within our human souls, within our psyche. And when it comes to interpreting Gog and Magog, Zechariah and the like, maybe we should start interpreting these things as dreams and visions were meant to be interpreted, as symbolic metaphor, as opposed to literal, factual history. Take a look at the famous vision that Ezekiel had of the Holy Temple. Ezekiel never, ever, ever thought that for a moment that what he was looking at was the third temple. he was thinking the only thing that he would ever think of God's temple. Maybe what he would think, or what we would have called a second temple, or a heavenly temple, or an archetypal temple. But that is going to be the physical edifice as it's going to be physically constructed on the Temple Mount today. It was never meant to be understood like that. Not by Ezekiel, and certainly not by anyone else, in spite of all the commentaries of all the rabbis have written the books about it. And we have had evil, vile human beings, Jewish and Christian alike, who in their attempt to physically rebuild the temple would seek to commit acts of violence and aggression against the mosque on the Temple Mount, saying it has to be destroyed so the temple can be built, because if the temple is built, Mashiach is coming. Maybe, maybe not. That's all subject to interpretation. And if God wants to take down the mosque on a mount, I think God could send an earthquake. Jerusalem's prone to earthquakes. We don't need to contribute our efforts to create chaos, provocation, and God forbid world wars and deaths in the countless millions. In my opinion, that is the most irresponsible course of action and my definition of evil. Do we need a third temple? You'd be surprised by Maimonides says, not necessarily. We really need sacrifice of animals again? Really? I think we've outgrown that. How can I say such a thing? Oh, excuse me. That's Maimonides' opinion in The Guide to the Perplexed. And yeah, I do hold by that. We have matured as a race, and we are maturing as a race. They're the wise words in the Baal Shem Tov. He says that each and every one of us has a spark of Mashiach inside us. And when we tap into that and unleash it and shine its light, that is how we bring Mashiach to this world. So you and I, we who are waiting daily for Mashiach to come, I am taking the efforts, at least myself, to try to materialize that to the world. No, there's absolutely nothing that I can do personally to make a man appear on a horse flying out of the sky singing Mighty Mouse songs. And you want to believe that the coming of Mashiach is going to be an extraterrestrial invasion? You can interpret prophecy in that direction. Indeed, the Talmud and the Zohar both state that with regards to the, in quote, third temple, it'll never ever be built by human hands, and it never can be. But it will come down ready built from heaven. Is that to be interpreted as the landing of some kind of extraterrestrial mothership? That's an opinion. It's an idea. All right, there seems to be some validity to it, but I guess time will tell. So in all due respect to my peers and friends in Israel today who are trying to rebuild a temple, al pi halacha, every scholar knows we are all in a state of ritual impurity. And no one can be cleansed from a state of ritual impurity without the ashes of the red heifer. Now here's your catch-22. In order to be cleansed by the ashes of the red heifer, it can only be done by a Kohen priest who himself is ritually pure. Guess what? We don't have any ritually pure priests who can offer the sacrifice or cleanse others. And therefore, no one is ritually clean to build a temple or any of the pieces that would go into it. It would all be ritually unclean and therefore unkosher. You'll find that as a consensus of halakhic opinions. So we're stuck. Until we have a Navi, a prophet who is going to come, somehow miraculously, supernaturally tahor, ritually clean, no physical edifice is ever going to be built. And that's just the truth of it. So rather than looking externally, like the Baal Shem Tov taught, like the Kabbalah teaches, we should be looking internally. Let's talk about Mashiach for a bit. Oh, now let's get some radical fun in here. Who is Mashiach? We always say it's the son of David. I'm not going to talk about Mashiach ben Yosef. In my opinion, the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef isn't an individual. In my opinion, I've written about this. You go on KosherTorah.com, my website. Do a search. I have a search thing up there. Put in Mashiach ben Yosef. I have a big long article why, in my opinion, Mashiach ben Yosef is a symbolic metaphor for the present existence of the state of Israel. I believe the entire state of Israel is Mashiach ben Yosef, that which must come before ben David, meaning, and I think ben David is more symbolic in general than an individual as well. That doesn't mean it's not an individual. Don't say I said that, because I didn't. But according to Kabbalah, when we speak of what's called Tikkun HaMelachim, the rectification of the fallen kings, and anybody who knows those secrets from the Kitvei Ari knows that the fallen kings are all female, feminine, the original source of Ben, as we call it, the original Sag, feminine, female. So the rectified kings is a female. Malchut is female. So if the Mashiach to come is the leader of Malchut, it's very possible to interpret within the Kabbalistic context that the one to come is a woman and not a man. And it could very easily be Bat David as opposed to Ben David. And yes, I know that that opinion that I'm expressing right now will not be embraced by my peers. All right? No, they're too misogynist to even consider the thought. Fine, whatever. But I say this with encouragement. Why? Because I still have a lot of hope in our women out there and their spiritual abilities to encourage the hearts and minds of their men, to raise them up, whip them into shape. Remember what it says, the role of a woman, wife? Ezer, kenegdo. Ezer, a help when he deserves it, kenegdo when he doesn't. Ladies, got to whip the men into shape. And a number of you ladies who are our students here at our KosherTorah school, who I've shared and chatted and talked with over the many years, you darn well know I've always encouraged you. You don't act in any ways disrespectful to a husband, but on the contrary, like we learned from the woman of valor, Eshet Chayil, how to encourage, stand up, and have him be supported by you. Well, that is how Malchut always supports Tiferet. That is how everything works in our world. So when we want to come to understand the coming of Mashiach, as I conclude again, better go back and look at all those prophecies and recognize most are meant to be interpreted symbolically. What is that symbolism? You look at all the different commentaries, and some you will agree with, and many you won't. And maybe if you can pull together your own insights and sources for validation, maybe you can come up with your own opinions, your own ideas, your own chidushim, revelations and insights. I will encourage it. So think about these things. You want more academic information? Take my Messianic courses, right? You can purchase them at our online store, lesson by lesson. You can look at the free lessons that I have online. You can look at all the essays that I've written over the many, many years. Learning is the true never-ending story. And that I encourage you to do every single day. You want Mashiach to come? Fine. Remember, you have that spark of Mashiach within you. Don't look to activate it politically, socially. Look to activate it psychologically and spiritually. Bring to light the best of what it is that we human beings have to offer. The world of peace, the world of unity, the world of great light. Do this, and we will accomplish great things together. I offer this to you for your consideration. Thanks all for listening. You know, I'm Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, KosherTorah.com. Keep in touch. Look us up online. Consider becoming a member of our student body, coming and learn our private classes so you can have access to these things. Looking forward to working with you in the future. God bless. And for those of us who are American and celebrate American freedom, absolutely. Happy 4th of July. God bless. Good night. Shalom.